Hello and welcome. This month I've been looking at how coaching can support women returning from maternity. I'm delighted to be joined by Kelly Southcott. Kelly, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, David. I've had quite a morning, which was quite an appropriate start for this session, but it involved a poo explosion, me on the floor, baby slipping over, and me having to sort all of that out before coming to see you.
Oh, sounds like a challenging start to the day. So thank you for joining me this morning anyway. I hope the rest of the day goes a bit more smoothly. Kelly, you have been working as a transformation consultant, running your own business, Kivo, for over 7 years, with clients that have included Crisis, Samaritans, NHS England, British Red Cross and Save the Children UK, amongst others. More recently, you've started working as a coach, and with a focus particularly in terms of supporting people to find their purpose, and also in terms of women returning from maternity. And as you've already suggested, you've also had the experience of having a child yourself most recently in the last year. So well experienced to share your insights in terms of how coaching possibly can help in this area. So I've got 3 questions for you today, if I may.
Sure.
And the first question is, what was your experience like of maternity and returning from maternity?
I would say the first word that comes to mind is challenging. So I didn't have the easiest maternity leave. Had a difficult return back to health after a difficult birth and general anaesthetic. And an emergency C-section. So for a lot of women, it's not birth never be straightforward. But let's put it this way: nobody ever comes out saying, "Well, that was easier than I expected." So it was challenging. It was challenging returning back to health, and that took about 4 months. I returned to work on month 6, and I'm lucky enough to only have to do a couple of days a week. Just in terms of, as I'm an independent consultant and a coach, I can just pick it up bit by bit. So there are a few words that come to mind. As I say, one is challenging. Finding the right balance is really hard when you've got a small baby. You want to be with the baby when you're at work. I don't think that's actually entirely true saying that. It's more like you need to learn the skill of compartmentalization. You get mum guilt, and then you also get overthinking about work whilst you're with your baby, which is not good because you need to be present. Challenging, very grateful, because goodness, I just can't even begin to imagine what it's like for women that have to travel into work 4 or 5 days a week. I'm really lucky in that I've been able to work from home and work a limited amount of time. The other thing I would mention is purpose and really understanding what it is. Your mind, a lot changes once you've had a baby. You realise things that you perhaps hadn't realised before, and your time is really precious. So you want to be doing something that adds value all the time. Again, I'm lucky enough to work with on projects and with people that really do add value to my life, and I feel that I'm adding value, but it's challenging. I would say one other thing is really live for me right now is finding the time to market as a businesswoman, because very logistically, I can't put my baby into nursery until I'm making the money to pay for nursery. And to make the money to pay for nursery, I need to market myself, which means there needs to be a number of days that I'm working where my husband is looking after our son. And it works because we can both do it, but it is not ideal. Having a baby at home whilst trying to work is very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's interesting there is it just shines a light on how many different facets there are to that new child being in your life. It's not just as simple as just rocking back up at work. And I know from our earlier conversations, there's even more going on that you haven't touched on. And so I think it's really helpful that you shared that with us. So thank you for that. If I can ask my next question, I know that you had some coaching in terms of supporting you in terms of returning from maternity. How did that help? How was that of value?
Well, for me, it's been valuable in a number of ways, but the first thing that pops to mind is the conversations I've had with others. There seems to be something that is pervasive across mothers returning to work, which is a crisis of confidence. And for me, I really needed that space and that coach to remind me that a year off, in that year, nothing's really fundamentally changed. Any perception is purely a perception. So if I'm not feeling confident at what I do, then that's coming from me. That's not real, you know. So that all starts with me, and having a coach really, really, really helped to do that. Also helped me to ensure that I was, as I talked about, compartmentalization, prioritizing the right things. On top of coaching, though, I think what really helped and what was really, really important was having relationships, friendships with other women in a similar situation. So professional women or business owners that had done it before or were doing it. Because because it's taken such a long time for women, when you look at it through history, for women to be able to work, full stop. It's not that long ago, you know. We're still fighting for equal rights. So to say this is hard does not feel conducive to a positive outcome of that fight for rights. So we're being really quiet about how difficult it is. And I think when you've got those really close relationships where you can be really honest, you realise the same for all of us. And everybody's still great at what they do. They're feeling tired, they're feeling very emotional. There are mental health challenges that come with the first year, potentially beyond after having a child. So having that support network is really important, and a coach can be a really good part of that.
Brilliant. Thanks. And it's interesting to hear that there's not a one solution approach to this, and it's multifaceted in terms of the different networks you dip into as well to facilitate your way through that, I guess. What my final question is, how do you feel? We spoke about how, as a coach, you want to help people find their purpose, and particularly in terms of people returning from maternity. How do you feel your lived experiences will help you to help them better?
So it's interesting because I'm really cautious to say this, because I want to call out all of the women that aren't mothers. And I know a lot of women that aren't mothers. And I really feel empathy for anybody. I mean, perhaps people that aren't mothers won't be watching this, but some people don't want to be, but some people do and can't. And I'm really feeling that before I say this, but there is something that happens to you when you do have a child, in my experience and the experience of those close to me. And that is something that's very difficult to describe. It's one of those things where you're told how hard it's going to be, you're told how wonderful it's going to be, but it's not until you live that you truly understand how hard that is. We're talking tears at 3 a.m. that you cannot go on hard. And the kind of wonder where your heart is going to explode, and you, again, tears of love. And I can say those things and I could be poetic about it and I can describe it in such a way. But the actual reality, the nightmare, and the other side of that spectrum, the positivity, is really difficult to explain. So speaking to somebody who you don't need to explain it to has been really useful. And in my work with my therapist, with my coach, and as I say, with those around me, I still surround myself with women that don't have children, because I 100% value them. And I think that experience is equally valid. That's something to talk about separately, equally valid but different. I find people that have experienced it, because I've recognised quite quickly over the last year that is really, really important to be able to connect on that level.
Yeah. And so you will bring that experience into your coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do also believe I bring the other side. So I didn't have a baby till I was 41.
Yeah.
So I very much understand the experience of being the woman without a child. And I think that's why I have such empathy for that side of things as well. But yes, interestingly, I work with a lot of women who don't have children. I also work with women that are considering having children and working out their visions. How do you make a vision around something that may or may not happen? But also love working with women who are experiencing the sort of challenges I did and can get some help through talking it through.
Fantastic. Kelly, thank you very much for sharing your experiences, very personal experiences, and your insights in terms of how coaching can help, as well as other networks can help in terms of that whole experience in maternity and childbirth and becoming a parent, etc. Key transition in anyone's life. So thank you very much for your time. As always, if this vlog has raised any questions for you on this topic or any topics related to coaching, then please do get in touch. I'll be delighted to hear from you.